Good morning and welcome to Economy and Market on BusinessDay TV, where we give you a comprehensive insight into the economy as well as market activities with regards to the Nigerian context. Now, we are starting off the show with the dramatic weekend we've just had in the country. So we had a weekend where we saw what I would describe as a matchup between the United States president, that's Donald Trump, and Nigeria as a whole, Nigeria and the Nigerian government. So over the time, we've seen Donald Trump as quite a consistent tweeter, or people call him a tweeter, or he posts on Truth Social where he talks about issues that are kind of personal to him. But this time we saw Nigeria came into the fray. So we saw the United States government, first of all, designating Nigeria as a country of particular concern. Then we saw on Sunday, he now tweeted that there's probably he tweeted the possibility of a military action in Nigeria. While it looks, there's all of it, we all know it's a political statement, there's a geopolitical aspect to it. Now I want to look at the market. What's the market saying? Now let's look at what the market is saying as of this morning. The market started trading 10 a.m. this morning, and as of 10:45 this morning, the market has continued in its bearish run. We've not seen much activity. We see the equity market cap at 90. We see market down by just 3 basis points. Last week, we saw the market down by 0.98% all of the week, almost 1 percentage point. But we see today, deals, over 13,000 deals have happened in the market, just 45 minutes. Are we seeing buying and selling? Are we looking at a situation that is tending towards what just happened? Is our market at risk? Those are some of the questions that we are asking. 72 million shares already traded in deals worth around 4.5 billion naira. Now let's look at some of the trending stocks. Let's look at our gainers for today. I'm looking at a 1 hour space gap between 10 till 11 a.m. this morning. So we have Caverton down, we have Mutual Benefit Assurance, we have Consolidated Hallmark Holdings, Access Holdings, and Guinea Insurance. So basically, it's just like what we are seeing here is basically just tending towards the regular losers. We've seen that banking stocks have not been the best of performers, especially with regards to their third quarter financials. We've seen that their third quarter financials have shown that there's not really so much to be excited about for investors. But let's look at the gainers. Let's look at some of the gainers. We see ASO Savings and Loans, Omatech Ventures, Royal Exchange, Veritas Capital, Assurance. Okay. Now on the show this morning, we're going to be discussing the risk, the potential risk with this designation, and on our market, on our FX market, and overall the Nigerian economy. Since we are just teetering on the brink of stability, will this affect us? How will this affect us? And on the show this morning, we have Adedola Freeman, who is the regional analyst for FBS Brokers. Good morning, Mr. Freeman.
Good morning, David. It's lovely to be here again.
It's been a dramatic weekend. That's how I'll describe it as. Abi, how do you see it?
Indeed, it's been dramatic. Like you said, there's a lot of geopolitical influence to consider, and I believe that this is something that calls to attention the need for more independence from the Nigerian nation as a sovereign entity. Especially with regards to controlling our own economy, all right, having a larger margin of control over our own economy as a sovereign nation.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the country of particular concerns designation? How do we really fit into the system? We remember that in 2018, in 2020, Nigeria was put on that list. And within a year, in 2021, we were let off that list. Some people say it's because when Nigeria was put on the list, it did not take time to materialize. The implications did not take time to materialize. But now we see that Donald Trump just basically started his tenure as the president, what are the potential implications for us as a country?
To be honest, the potential risks are enormous, to be very frank, especially considering the fact that Nigeria as it is today is largely import dependent. All right, so designating Nigeria as a nation of particular concern means that there is going to be reduced trust in business partnerships between foreign entities and Nigerian entities, because the risk of logistic disruptions is going to be a major consideration. Like I said, we're import dependent, so logistic disruptions can severely impact local businesses, to a very large extent. And it also means that many of our foreign direct investments or investors can begin to reconsider their portfolio or their interest in the nation, since there is no particular communication of a deadline as to how long the designation will last or how long it's going to take, because this is an issue that has been on for quite a while. All right, Nigeria has been battling this insecurity for well over a decade, so it means that there's no deadline to when this designation will be revoked. So, and that's why it's actually quite concerning.
So now Nigeria is heavily dependent on our oil exports. We depend on oil exports for our Naira stability. How will this move? Now, let's not even now we talked about the CPC designation. Trump went further to even now give that there is a potential for a military action in Nigeria. How will this exacerbate pressures on the Naira and our FX reserve? What are the implications for our foreign exchange reserves?
That's a beautiful one. But I know we both can recall that earlier this year, in an event, or let me say in an intervention, all right, that the CBN tagged as defending the Naira. We remember that the CBN already disbursed a portion of the foreign reserves in a bid to defend the Naira against the volatility of the exchange rate. So that means that right now the country is running on limited FX reserves, which of course I wouldn't trust figures coming from the authorities, because they have interests to protect. This kind of a situation now is going to mount increased pressure on the liquidity of the nation. All right, in the sense that, like you said, we depend largely on oil exports, and disruptions in the logistic chain framework rather is also going to have a big impact. All right, so that's why when I talk about the things that we need to begin to seriously consider, all right, logistic disruption is going to be at the top of that list, because when a nation is not at peace, it means that insurance rates go up, funding for businesses are almost unavailable, and so many other things that could result in the collapse of the economy, so to say.
So we've spoken about the logistics disruptions, we've spoken about the business aspect of it. I want to talk about the aid part of it. Trump talked about the fact that they were going to be pausing aid and assistance to Nigeria. So in one breath, I think that with the suspension of USAID, Nigeria's reliance on US aid in that sense had really come to a halt. I think it had almost come to a halt. But how do you think that US stopping aid to Nigeria would really play on our economy? Is it something that we should be wary about?
Thank you for that question. But then again, if we revisit the figures from the MBS, all right, talking about the poverty rate in the nation, we'll understand that a large percentage of the Nigerian populace rely on this aid, all right, this aid benefits. We have a large number of internally displaced persons. We have, several areas that are facing or that are currently going through one form of crisis or the other. All right, so the complete withdrawal of these aids could begin to stimulate erstwhile, calm individuals to begin to stir up some form of disturbances, all right, which is also going to be quite impactful on the economy as a whole, because in a place where poverty reigns supreme, morals take a lead, all right? So when people when people have needs, all right, a lot of people are willing to forego morality in a bid to meet those needs. And that means that there's no peace even for those who probably feel like, things are fine. Then I think that it's an alarming thing for everyone, basically.
Now, capital flight. We basically built a steady currency, a stable currency rate on FPIs, foreign portfolio inflows. We've not seen so much foreign direct investment. It's not been so large that we'll say they are going to they've been driving the steadiness in the currency. But we've seen a lot of FPIs, especially with treasury bills. The government has issued quite a bit of treasury bills, around over 20 trillion naira issued since Tinubu came into office. It's been a lot of issuances. The question now is, how will this particular move trigger capital? Will it trigger capital flight? Is Nigeria heavily dependent on capital coming in from the US, coming in from Europe, coming in from people that are influenced by statements that Donald Trump make, or is not something to be wary about? That's another question. Is there a material impact on capital inflow into the country? All of this drama that's going on.
All right, David, let me just use the lyrics of a particular song, Easy Come, Easy Go. I'm sure you're familiar with the song. The problem with FPIs, all right, is that they are easy to come in, but at the same time, it's one of the most liquid vehicles, all right? So it's as easy to leave as it is to come in. Like you said, if we've seen over 20 trillion coming in within a span of about 3 years, all right, it means that, FDIs sometimes take as long as 8-10 years to come in, all right? But if FPIs are coming in to the tune of, the amount you stated, within 2 years, it means that they can very much as quickly leave, all right? Trust is harder to gain, all right, than it is to lose. So if there's reason for concern, like we currently have in Nigeria at the moment, because most people are uncertain how the government is going to respond, or how the government is going to handle the potential backlash from this from this confrontation. So it means that the FPIs might be taking flight, all right, because it's quite easy for them to take flight, to be honest. So that's what I think about this.
So one question I have is, what was your advice on how Nigeria's markets now? Now I don't want to bring in political side of things. Now I want to look at the Nigerian market itself, the Nigerian currency markets, the Nigerian fixed income markets, the Nigerian stock exchange, all of this. How can they navigate this? Because they've been thrust into a situation that would have material impact on them, a situation that where they are almost put in direct confrontation with some of their biggest benefactors. How do you think that our markets in itself can navigate this position that they are in right now?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because right now it's like being caught between two terrible options, all right? The central bank that could probably intervene to ensure that there's some form of stability, unfortunately has some shortage that they are dealing with, in the sense that, like I mentioned earlier, our foreign reserves have already been marginalized by the Naira defense program that took place earlier in the year. All right, so I think the main thing that the local market can begin to do is to emphasize on transparency, all right, emphasize on communication, all right, because this is a period where trust will be tested. Like you said, they're going to have to confront some of their biggest benefactors, all right, and that means that there's going to be need for them to be able to maintain relationship, maintain a flow of communication, maintain, transparency of, books, programs, plans, projections, and things like that. So that peradventure, some of the industries that still have some form of belief in the system can be able to execute that belief, with calm. And if there's need for it, they can also be able to hedge their positions as quickly as possible. All right, so that there's no sour taste left in anybody's mouth, in essence.
Okay, now I want to let's move. I'm drifting to the stock market. Nigeria's exchange was on the way. We were on the way. There were moves to move Nigeria's exchange. I think for Financial Times, there was a move to move Nigeria's MSCI too, was also planning to move Nigeria's stock market back into its frontier market stocks. Frontier markets, among the frontier markets, we had moved from frontier to standalone, and standalone is quite like it's almost like being in a pariah state where nobody wants to really associate and do business with you. However, based on some of the moves made by the government, we've seen it move from frontier, from standalone, and now people are and some of these guys are considering moving us back to frontier market. Now we are battling this. How will this affect the market? How will this really play out in the market? Well, and let's not forget the fact that we already have 21% of our participation in the market coming from the foreigners in 2025.
All right. Like I said, see, this is a period where, like I said, trust will be tested. All right. The designation did not happen on the basis of just one singular factor, right? There was a basket of factors that led to, the decision to upgrade our standing or, our position in the global, stock market. And I think that whatever decision is going to take place, whether about sticking with the upgrade or with taking us back to the standalone market, I think it's still going to rely on how quickly and how transparently the government is able to intersect or intervene in the matter. All right, because given the current standing or the current situation of things, there are a lot of factors that need to be addressed. Like I said, there's the issue of the depleting foreign reserves, which means that sometimes we might get to see artificial scarcity of foreign currency, in the sense that we get to see banks beginning to hoard certain currencies, claiming that they no longer have in their reserves, simply because they are waiting for the exchange rates to climb, and then they can begin to, they can increase their profit margins based on that practice. So this is where the pace of the government intervention will play a major role, because the quicker they're able to intervene, the more transparent their communication, the more steady our progress into the frontier market will be. But if we, at this point, begin to attempt playing shady games, and there's silence from the government, or this designation as a country of particular concern is prolonged, all right, each moment that we spend with that designation means that more and more trust is eroding, all right? So that's what I think needs to be done. We need to have a proactive measure to address things as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Adedola Freeman. Thank you for speaking to us on the show this morning.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, David.
After the break, we return with market updates as well as news making the rounds. Stay with us.